Hello, I'm Christina Falk on the BBC World Service, and this is BBC OS Conversations, Messages from Gaza. I'm one of the producers on the OS team. Since the beginning of the Israel and Hamas war in October last year, I've been following the lives of several people in Gaza. When they were able to, they have been sending us voice messages and text updates or chats, like this one.
I asked myself, who should I cry for first? You lost your loved ones, you lost your friends, your neighbors, your dreams, everything here in Gaza.
That's Sanabel, and we'll hear more from her later. It is now almost 6 months since the October the 7th attacks on Israel by Hamas, which is designated a terrorist organization by many Western countries. The attacks, the deadliest in Israel's history, killed 1,400 people, while 253 others were taken into Gaza as hostages. Israel's bombardment of Gaza that followed has continued since. This has displaced around 80% of the population in the territory, and according to the Hamas-run health ministry, has killed 30,000 Palestinians. So, what we plan to do on this edition is to hear from each of our contributors, one at a time. They will take you through the sequence of events in their lives. And just to explain, their voices might sound like they change during their messages. That's because they often have to move to different locations, they have a varying quality of connections, and the understandable changes in their emotional state. And suffice to say, some of what they describe you might find distressing. We are going to start with Batul. She's 18 and a poet. She lived in Gaza City in the north of the Strip when we first made contact with her on the 11th of October, 3 days after Israel officially declared war. We heard from her first live on our weekday show OS, when it was still possible to have a stable internet connection to Gaza. At the time, she was at her aunt's house in Gaza City, together with her family, because she had to evacuate from her home.
There is no actually safe place, but my mom and me and my siblings, we feel more safe with other people. I have to not show my fear, but in the current moments, everyone feels in that way. And every minute, I think that our house is going to be bombed and I will die. Guys, sorry, I have to leave. They are going to bomb a place near to my house, so I have to leave now.
Batul had to leave the conversation suddenly as she found out there was a warning that the neighborhood was about to be bombed. We heard again from her 2 days later. October the 13th was a Friday, and the day more than 1 million people were warned to start to move from the northern Gaza further south after the Israeli army had issued an evacuation warning.
When I heard about the evacuation, I went back to my home. I want to die with my whole family in my home. I'm depressed and mentally destroyed. In the last 2 hours, I cried more than any time in my life. Other people are crying and evacuating. No one knows what to do. They all walking in the streets because there is no car to get them to south. Everyone asks the other where they go, and they answer, we don't know. We still don't know if we are going to stay or leave. The Israeli armies are still bombing everywhere, so if we decided to leave, we are also in danger.
On October 17th, Batul sent another update, where she described how the family was still deciding whether to stay home or evacuate south. The noise in the background is a sound you will hear in several of the messages from all the young women. It is Israeli drones above the Gaza Strip.
There is no internet, no electricity. In the previous days, I and my family had to take the most important decision, which was to evacuate to the south or to stay at home. My grandparents' neighborhood is fully destroyed. I lost 2 of my friends yesterday, and I had to cut more than half my long hair because I can't wash it. There is no enough amount of water to spend on my hair. Now, I can't be a woman in the way I want. I and my family are sleeping in my parents' room to die together. This is our only wish. I'm not scared anymore. I'm just waiting for my certain death.
After this, I was only able to communicate with her via written messages. She told me that she and her family had managed to move to the south of Gaza, to Rafah. They were living in a tent and were exhausted. She said many of her friends had been killed. The last text message I received from her was a fortnight ago, and any of my recent messages to her remain undelivered. I mentioned Rafah a moment ago. It is a city in the south of Gaza and at the border crossing into Egypt. Currently, around 1.5 million Gazans are there, with many who have been displaced having earlier been told that that was a safe area. Before I introduce you to the next person I've been speaking to, let me share some more about the general population of Gaza. It is one of the most densely populated places on Earth, where ordinarily some 2 million people live. And according to the United Nations, they are on the verge of famine. The small strip of land is bordered by Israel to the east and north, the Mediterranean Sea to the west, and Egypt to the south. Children and people under 18 make up nearly half of the population. The UN's children's agency, UNICEF, says that more than 13,000 children have been killed in the ongoing war, and many who survive will see a long-lasting impact on their lives. One of these young people is 16-year-old Sanabel. We were first put in contact with her by her aunt Ola on October the 14th, when Sanabel sent us this message.
This war doesn't look like any wars that's happened before. When people ask me where is my biggest fear, I was always answer living in wars. I'm terrified to lose my family, my home, in addition my dreams and my ambitions. Most of Gazan people died without warning in their houses. A week has passed since the war began, and there are no basic things that we need to continue our lives. We are here in Gaza without electricity, water, or even the internet. My little sister's birthday has come. There are no shops to buy cakes because of the violent explosions.
Being afraid of the explosions became a part of the daily life for Sanabel. As towards the end of October, conditions in Gaza worsened, with Israeli airstrikes intensifying and aid agencies warning that hospitals risked running out of fuel. For almost 10 days from October 16th, Sanabel sent us a series of messages.
Last night was the most terrifying at all. In every explosion, I feel that the time has come to eliminate us. Night has come. People are waiting it to sleep and rest, but in Gaza we are waiting it in order to die because of the annoying sounds of planes that we always hear it. Fire belts, missiles. It looks like a nightmare. There is no light. The electricity has been cut off for 11 days. They want us to die from pain. Please pray for us. I have to be strong and hide my fear so as not to frighten my little sister. In order to relieve myself of the anxiety of this war, I should sit with my family and talk together because it makes me feel better. We stand for more than 3 hours to buy bread, and with difficulty we also buy vegetables and fruits because the crossing is closed and we import them from abroad. The markets will also be closed due to the lack of goods. I have collapsed. I was afraid of the night, but now I'm afraid of the night and the day. I can't believe that I'm still alive. Christina, I can't do anything. I can't do anything, just the word to stop the war. We are really fed up. I can't do anything, just pray for us. Do something for us, please. I can't. Maybe I'm going to lose my dream, my families. I can't. By the way, there are a lot of people under the rubble of their houses. No one can't help them. I am in my home. I can't go out of my home because the missiles bomb everywhere.
I then did not hear from Sanibel for 5 months, until March the 18th, where she told me she was still in Gaza City, but had not had any access to the internet until this point. She also shared the sad news with me that her aunt Ola, who was the one that put us in contact with her in the first place, was killed in an airstrike. Having managed to get a better internet connection, she shared a series of voice messages with me.
I missed my life before 7th October. My relatives were with me, but now, please, how can I understand what happened to you in Gaza? I lost 6 of my father's relatives and 4 of my mother's relatives. I asked myself, who should I cry for first? You lost your loved ones, you lost your friends, your neighbors, your dreams, everything here in Gaza. Oh my goodness. Please pray for us. Maybe the only solution is to die and give up to death.
I'm Christina Völk, and you're listening to BBC OS Conversations, Messages from Gaza, from the BBC World Service. Another young woman that I am in contact with is Asil. She's 26 and a freelance journalist. She started sending us messages from October the 11th while she was still at her home in the area Tel Al-Hava, which is part of Gaza City. Here are 2 messages she sent us shortly after the war started.
Hello, I am Asil Musa. I'm recording this voicemail while I am under bombardment around my home. Since the early hours of Saturday, Israel declared the situation a state of war. Since then, it has been bombing entire neighborhoods in Gaza. These buildings have collapsed on the residents while they were sleeping at night. I have nowhere to go. There are no shelters in Gaza and there is no safe place. It's now the 6th day of Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. I remain at my home, feeling helpless, as Israel has cut off electricity, internet, and water from the Strip. We have only 4 hours of electricity a day, and yesterday, I went through a very harrowing experience as a tower next to my home in Tel Al-Hawa was targeted. Neighbors were rushing down the stairs. Children were screaming, and glass was shattering over the heads of residents. At the same time, my brother who lives outside Gaza was calling to check on us. I was trembling with fear as I told him that we had to evacuate our home. We quickly grabbed our evacuation bags and descended to the base of the tower in which we live.
Asil and her family then decided to leave her house and neighborhood for good and moved to the Al-Maghazi refugee camp in the center of the Gaza Strip. During October and November, she sent us these voice notes. Asil needed to keep her messages short due to the limited internet and connection.
I'm recording this while I'm evacuating my home from the west of the Gaza Strip in Tel Al-Hawa neighborhood to Al-Maghazi refugee camp. We left our homes having nothing, just a bag with my passport and my ID. Although we escaped from our home, still I don't feel safe. In a brief, I can say that we escaped from death to death. Pray for me to not evacuate from Al-Maghazi refugee camp. I cannot handle it anymore to escape from another home to another home and maybe to schools and maybe to the streets. It's now the 10th day of the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. I'm now in my relative's home. I'm still in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp. The situation is still catastrophic. I really can't bear this pain anymore. For 40 days, the Gaza Strip has endured bombardments. The healthcare system already collapsed as the hospitals are run out of fuel and a lot of hospitals stopped working. I'm still hearing bombardments all the time, artillery shelling in the night. We wake up every morning just trying to check on our relatives and beloved ones. After that, we try to think of what we will eat and what we can cook as the shops run out of the whole goods. We barely have healthy water, and even the undrinkable water is also very limited. In the safe area, as Israel claimed, I lost 9 people from my family. 7 of them are children. Hello, Christina. The situation in the Gaza Strip during the temporary ceasefire is still dire. So many people are still under the rubble. I'm still suffering. I'm now in the refuge house in Al-Maghazi refugee camp in the middle of the Gaza Strip. I just saw some photos and videos for the apartment we used to live in. Seeing the home where I spent my childhood is damaged is something that is undescribable. In brief, we are still suffering, and the situation is getting worse and worse day by day. And that's it.
Although Asil did not want to move again, her journey continued. She eventually had to make her way to Rafah in the south. She sent me these messages in January and February.
My family and I have been displaced in Rafah city for 5 days now. This is the second time during the recent Israeli aggression on Gaza. Previously, we were displaced for 78 days in Al-Maghazi refugee camp in the middle of the Gaza Strip. Food and essential materials are in severe shortage. The city of Rafah now hosts over 1 million displaced people, with many residing in tents, on the streets, and in UNRWA schools. The displaced people are enduring harsh conditions, including extreme cold, rain, and the risk of epidemics. Hi, Christina. This is Asil Musa again. Actually, the Israeli bombing in Gaza last night was insane. It was like non-stop airstrikes and artillery fire. We were all terrified. There's nowhere to go to. Actually, there's nowhere safe in Gaza anymore. I'm so sorry. I cannot describe details. I cannot.
Since February 19th, I have not received a voice message from Asil. However, over the recent weeks, she has sent me text messages with 2 simple words: still alive. Some Gazans, those who can afford it, have tried to leave Gaza, crossing the border at Rafah to Egypt. Layan, who is 35, chose to take this route with her 2 daughters, Sama and Ilya, who are 12 and 7 years old. She used to work at the American International School. When the war started, her husband was outside Gaza for work, so she traveled alone with her 2 daughters. She sent us this message on the 9th of November.
Hello, my name is Layan Bakir. The words were pouring with my tears. I will be reading them to you. The situation is that we may die at any moment, living without running water, electricity, fuel, bread, living as a refugee in my own country. I can't be joined with my husband who traveled a few days before war. I even can't reach my family, my mother, father, sisters, and grandma, for more than a month now, even though they live in the same city. I can't walk on the street. It's not safe. Even though they told us to head south as it is safe there, it is not safe. There is ongoing shelling and bombing. Now we became experts to recognize the weapon firing on us, a tank, a warship, or a warcraft. My kids were cut off education for more than a month now. I can get them good food or fresh water. Even their school was bombed. If someone shuts a door or sneezes, they would panic and yell. They would think it's a bomb. The smell of death is all around us. I'm holding my kids, wishing to die all together, so no one would be left behind to grieve the other. I know that I have to be strong for my kids, but I'm not that strong. No one is. My heart is shattered. We love our children the way all mothers around the world do. We love to live, to read, to shop, to learn, to work, to travel, to succeed. We are just normal people. Why do we have to endure all this pain? How much one's heart can take? How much cruelty can witness? Why does everyone assume that we have no feelings, no value, that we must simply die in silence? Why can't our kids grow older? Why do we have to die while we're alive?
11 days later, Leanne sent her last update before they crossed into Egypt.
Hello, this is me again, Layan Bakr, speaking after 40 days living under the Israeli attack. Life in Gaza has stopped ever since. We began to forget how normal life is. October has passed, November has come, nothing has changed. We don't know what day of the week it is. Everyone are looking for a crumb of bread, for a drop of water, for a source of power to charge their phone. In Gaza, if you lose your house that has all your memories, all your loved belongings, all your warmth, we can't grieve that, because we know there is another one who lost a child, and another who lost a mother, and another whose whole family was wiped off the civil record. It is no time to break down, not yet, but when I finally get to cry, I will cry a river.
We got in touch with her and her two daughters when they arrived in Cairo. They explained how they were safe, but at this point had still to be reunited with their husband and father.
I'm safe and sound. My daughters are still safe and sound. I thank God for that. And then I think, how did my family wake up today? I grab my phone and go over the news. If we have connection to Gaza, I try to call when my mom feels good about one of her daughters is being safe. She thinks that at least one of them can survive now. At least if we all die, one of us can stay alive. Me feeling that she has that feeling is very hard.
My friend Lilia, her house got bombed.
We talk about like who of our friends, like they're still in Gaza and whose house got bombed and stuff like that. But sometimes when I hear the airplanes, I get scared.
I think our bodies is still in the state of defense or the state of survival instinct.
Despite the physical and emotional toll of the war, it is important to stress that all the women we are in touch with wanted us to share their stories with the rest of the world so that they are not forgotten. And we will try and keep in touch to make sure they are all okay. Our thoughts are with them and their families, and also with those in Israel who are grieving for their loved ones, and others who are still anxiously waiting for news on the hostages that are held in the Gaza Strip. We plan to hear those voices from Israel on a later edition. I'm Christina Ferg from the BBC World Service. You've been listening to BBC OS Conversations, Messages from Gaza.